Welcome to Sustainability Bridges, a Eurosif podcast that aims to build bridges between policymakers, investors, academics and civil society around the theme of sustainable investment. Eurosif, the European Sustainable Investment Forum, is the leading pan-European association promoting sustainable finance and investment at the European level. In these podcasts, Eurosif's Executive Director invites distinguished guests for a 30-minute conversation on current events shaping the sustainable investment community.
Hello everyone, my name is Pierre Garot and I am Senior Policy Advisor at Eurosif, the European Sustainable Investment Forum. For this episode of Sustainability Bridges, I am honored to be joined by Mr. Krzysztof Kaminski, Chairman of Sustainable Investment Forum Poland, or POLSIF, and board member of Millennium TFI, as well as by Mr. Robert Stroka, partner at Abris Capital, member of the Invest Europe ESG Committee, and also a member of POLSIF's management board. Together, we are going to dive into the different approaches to sustainability-related investments, their benefits and challenges, as well as the development of and appetite for sustainable finance in Poland and more generally in Central and Eastern Europe countries. We will talk about the development of the Sustainable Investment Forum Poland, as well as other interesting projects, achievements and challenges that are particularly prevalent in the region, and what developments we can expect in the coming years. So dear Krzysztof and Robert, many thanks for joining us today.
Thank you all, and it's a pleasure.
Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's great to be here.
Thanks to you both. So maybe first of all, for our listeners that are not so familiar maybe with the Polish Sustainable Investment Forum, or POLSIF, what are its objectives, its supporting organizations, and day-to-day activities?
Okay, let me start. Sustainable Investment Forum Poland is a non-profit and non-governmental organization focused on promoting sustainable finance and investments in Poland and CEE region. Our members are representatives of leading banks, asset management companies, insurers, private equity funds, industry chambers, and legal and consulting firms. We are also joining the academic world representatives. So we have currently created the industry platform for collaboration among investors and entities in the financial market, but also universities and business schools, both nationally and potentially also internationally. We want to support the growth and transformation of our economy, particularly for the financial industry, by popularizing knowledge, conduct research and analysis in the field of sustainable finance and ESG. We also want to help to understand legal regulations and align them with national and European public administration. So currently POLSIF is composed of more than 120 experts from the financial industry and the environment of the financial market, and also institutions that support POLSIF from the industry, that support us and being involved in the development of sustainable investment and finance. So supporting members are financial institutions, investment asset managers, or information or consulting companies. But we are on the very, let's say, beginning of our road. We have been created last year, September, and soon we will have a first anniversary of our existence. So we are very happy to be a part of a broader family of sustainable investment for us that exists or has existed in Europe and is under an umbrella of Eurosif. We have a socially active management of 7 persons among myself or Robert. We have also 5 other board members. And we have also advisory board with more or less 20 experts from the market with big knowledge and experience. And also as a transparent NGO, we have a supervision of our, let's say, audit committee. So we want to be fully transparent in the area, what we do and how we do it, and how are we, let's say, distributing the resources we are getting from the partners. So our activities focus mostly on creating a platform for the exchange of knowledge and experiences, best practices for financial institutions, developing guidelines or standards for the industry, analyzing legal regulations in the field of sustainable investments, preparing analysis or reports on the state of the market or the practices of financial institutions, or we want to conduct educational activities. One project that we are already starting is the postgraduate studies under one of the biggest business schools in Poland, Kosmiński University, with the program dedicated to financial institution employees. But also we want to initiate international cooperation, represent the industry in discussion with the national administration, which we have already done because we are the part of the sustainable finance platform under the Ministry of Finance in Poland. And we also want to, communicate with Polish regulators, the Security Commission, for example. So this is more or less, our perspective. Of course, we are a relatively young organization compared to the history of certain sustainable investment forums in Europe, but we have a great ambition to be stronger and to change the landscape of Polish sustainable finance.
It was very broad and comprehensive introduction from the Krzysztof side, but I would just to say that we not only have a very ambitious plan, but we also already delivered a couple of the tools and guides for the financial institutions in terms of the sustainable finance, which were developed with the broad cooperation with the stakeholders from the financial institutions. So we already serve our role as a standard developer in terms of sustainable finance in CEE, especially in Poland.
Many thanks to both. And as you mentioned, Krzysztof, we are also at Eurosif very happy to count POLSIF as one of our observer members. So you both have a very detailed expertise on sustainable investments, but within those sustainable investments, we often hear different terms describing specific investment strategies, such as, for example, best-in-class, thematic investing, or exclusion-based investments. Could you please elaborate on the different approaches that sustainable investments may cover, and how do you practically differ them from one another?
Okay, let me start. To me, sustainable investment is a very broad term that does have many meanings and practical uses. There is no one definition of a sustainable investing. There are many different definitions, but all of them have one common denominator. It is the intention to take under consideration some environmental, social, or governmental aspects in the investment strategy. So the purpose, or for the purpose of achieving better performance from one side and positive results for the environment or society of another. For the last few years, we have been observing the evolutions of investors' approach from basic, simple methods of exclusions of certain companies or sectors, like fossil fuels, for example, through introduction of investment limits based on analysis of ESG aspects of the investee companies, or selection of the best ones in their respective peer groups. But this was only the beginning. But currently, the most advanced investment methods focus mostly on achieving granular or concrete impact, so measurable effect on selected aspects of ESG through investment process. And also, what I'm observing is a full ESG integration, which is becoming more and more, in practice. ESG integration that covers ESG analysis and implementation on all the steps of investment process, including risk and portfolio management, not only just simple criteria of selection, the instrument, and also valuation is one additional important element of the full ESG integration. So we can see that integration and impact investing becoming more, let's say, more common. The basic state of the sustainable investment methods is becoming less obsolete because of the fact that, for example, excluding companies or limiting the exposure to certain sectors can also hurt the investment performance. And we have to really be aware of this fact and potential deviation from the benchmarks. And also, lastly, I would like to point out the growing important role of engagement and stewardship. I can especially observe this process in the Western European markets. Maybe you would like to add?
Sure, yeah. You Krzysztof mentioned about the exclusionary strategy, best in class, also engagement and stewardship. And impact investing, I would add maybe one additional strategy, which is a thematic investing, which is a long-term strategy that invests in growing trends shaping our future. I would say, such as biotechnology, energy generation, and for example, aging population. So this is also very specific and very important strategy which focus on the one particular theme.
Thanks both for this very comprehensive overview. Maybe let's focus a bit on this notion of impact investment that you both mentioned. And here I'm looking at Robert. So could you please elaborate and share your perspective on impact investments?
Thank you that you pay attention on this particular strategy, because impact investing is let's say, slightly different animal among other investment strategies. Impact investing, by definition, are investments made with the intention to generate positive, measurable social and environmental impact alongside financial return. And for example, increasing number of affordable houses, decreasing emission, increasing number of the healthcare procedures, and so on, so forth. And according to Global Impact Investing Network, there are a couple of the features of the impact investing, helping to distinguish it against other forms of the investings. And these characteristics are, first of all, intentionality. It means that impact investing is marked by the intentional desire to contribute to measurable social or environmental benefit. Impact investors aim to solve problems or address the opportunities in terms of sustainability. And this is at the heart of what differentiated impact investing from other investment approach, which may incorporate also impact considerations. So this is very important. Next feature, which is important, is investment with return expectations. This is a very clear feature. It means that impact investments are expected to generate financial return on impact. This is not a philanthropic investment. This is the investment which focus on the financial returns also. In impact investing, important is also managed impact performance. Impact investing comes with the specific intention and necessities that investments be made towards that intentions. And that is why appropriate governance structure needs to be designed and implemented. And I would like to highlight this point. The appropriate corporate governance of the impact investment funds includes elements such as clear impact strategy, specific policy adjusted investment processes, remuneration structure, reporting, knowledge, diversified investment committee, which could be a new element for many funds, sustainable expert on board, external verification of impact results, and so on. And last but not least, in terms of the features of the impact investing, which I would like to underline, is impact measurement. It is an immanent element of the impact investing and is the commitment of the investor to measure and report the social or environmental performance and progress of underlying investment, ensuring transparency, which is very important, and accountability while informing the practice of the impact investing. And let me maybe for one additional comment to impact investing, because I would not quote impact investing with the funds under Article 9 of SFDR, Sustainable Finance Disclosure Regulation. Of course, impact investing may operate under Article 9 of SFDR, but they may also be found under the Article 8, in my opinion. And I think that within the European Union, we need a broader discussion about impact investing, especially with the perspective of the legal regime we have in the European Union.
Yes, I would agree with this. And certain regulators or in central countries, you can observe that, for example, in the UK, we have this special category of impact investing label. So I believe we need to, let's say, be precise in that what should be the characteristic of such a fund and what would be the let's say, measured methods and outputs expected from those kind of funds. And they don't necessarily have to be Article 9 or 8, but in this aspect, they should fulfill certain minimum standards. And this is something we can also, let's say, rediscuss during the next phase of SFDR renewal process.
Thank you both. And indeed, I mean, the notion of impact investment and the clarification of what that actually means will be one of the main aspects of the upcoming SFDR review, or at least that's what we also push forward at Eurosif. So maybe then let's continue discussing the regulatory framework. So we just mentioned SFDR. There has been many EU regulations during the development of sustainable finance across Europe, but their implementation have created some issues. And you mentioned in particular SFDR. Could we quickly share the Polish market perspective on the implementation of this regulation?
In my opinion, Polish capital market is quite, let's say, adapted to the regulatory standards requirements, especially from the point of view of SFDR or CSRD on financial institutions, of course. But we have to, let's say, realize that this is a very active field. We have a pipeline of new regulations. We have new coming regulations of CSDD, for example, and to us, the more important thing is to interpret the regulations in a way we should do it, and in the way we are able to do it, because we differ a bit from developed markets in Europe, other developed markets in terms of, let's say, that data availability, for example, ability of companies to deliver certain information to financial institutions. So we are, let's say, a bit behind of the most developed Western economies and regions. But I believe the state of advancement of Polish financial market is quite significant. We would like also to be able to deliver certain, let's say, suggestions how to adapt or create new regulations, also taking into account the specificity of Central and Eastern Europe, which is much more, let's say, heavy industry based with larger fossil fuels or in the industry shares. So the, say, so-called transition investing is something we would like to promote more, and we need a clear definition of that, because currently we don't have a definition of transition. There's a wide definition of transition in SFDR and other regulations, but there is no clear definition, and we would like to set up a standard both for the development of, for example, transition bond instrument, and from the perspective of being able to transfer the capital from banks and from investment companies for the purpose of transition of heavy industries in Poland. And this is what certain companies already trying to do, like, for example, big mining companies that would like to invest in the transition technologies of, for example, CO capturing or methane capturing, but their ability to finance such projects is currently limited. And but generally, coming back to the, let's say, the question of regulations, I think we are quite well prepared. We would like to put more emphasis on implementation in practice, both in the banking sector and in the investment sector, the ability to use more assets for the sake of sustainable investment or sustainable loans of those institutions.
So we've heard the challenge, the regulatory challenge that you encounter, and the lack of clarity on the definition on some aspects. So we mentioned impact investment, and also the necessity to develop transition investments within the EU. Could also each of you flag one positive aspects from the EU sustainable finance frameworks and regulations that helped you in your day-to-day activities as well, in allocating investment towards sustainability outcomes?
Sure, maybe I start this time. If I would pick one positive aspect of EU sustainable finance regulation, I would say that is professionalization. It means the process of the professionalization in terms of the financial products, in terms of the governance structure, in terms of the accountability, is very huge, very fast, and it allows us to better develop the products which support the transition mentioned by Krzysztof.
Yes. We have to understand that, however, financial institutions in Poland understand well the importance of the capital transfer, sustainable capital transfer, and they understand their role in the transition of Polish economy. Banks and especially big capital groups are in the process of, defining their strategies, how to increase the share of their assets that can be called sustainable, because currently we have, levels of, this is my estimation, of 1 to 2% of the bank's asset, and more or less the same for the investment mutual funds industry, which is well below, especially for the mutual fund industry, is well below the European average, which is above 50%, according to Morningstar. But for the banks, we can see a clear work and clear effort to increase the share of the sustainable assets. But banks don't have categorization or clear categorization of certain products like sustainable loan or green mortgage. This is common for all European markets. And we are currently working with Polish banks within our banking, expertise group or working group, to set up certain standards, both for sustainable linked loans, mortgage investments, or specifically the real estate characteristics that can be interpreted as a standard for sustainable investments in the real estate. So from this point, we are working to be maybe even ahead of other European markets. I expect to have certain conclusions from this working group until the end of this year. On the other hand, if we look at the mutual funds market in Poland, we are well behind. We have not more than 100 funds claiming accordance to SFDR, and the practice and the strategies are rather oriented on exclusions or certain limits, not impact or achieving positive results. But this is also going to change thanks to our working groups and open meetings with institutional investors. We want to share, our best practice in this field too. So I believe that both industries, mutual funds and banking industries, will follow this path of growth, and currently are more in the analysis phase, I would say, because also the clients of banks and clients of funds in Poland do not create pressure to change on those industries, because I've seen the data from, for example, MiFID questionnaires results, and there is not more than 10% of clients really addressing the need of sustainable investing product here in Poland. So this is something we would also like to change by disseminating knowledge not only to institutions, but also to the public, so they become more aware that they can make the change or make the difference by using their money and investing into sustainable investment product.
Thanks, Krzysztof. And would you say that it's also something to be linked with the overall level of maturity of the sustainable investment markets overall and specifically in Poland? And I would also imagine that POLSIF has a specific role to play in that.
Yeah. I think I've said so, that we are a bit lagging, but also with the ambition to catch up very soon. And it's exactly where POLSIF and other SIF's role is defined, to help financial institutions to understand that they need to change products, processes, approaches in their, let's say, lending strategy, in their investment strategies, that they realize what they need to change. I mean, products, process, risk management. These are different areas for financial institution where the sustainable finance is really need to be adapted. And at the end, how to do it, because we cannot just say that, for example, green loan or green investment should be dedicated only to wind farms or solar panel producers, yes, because we are not the type of economy where this market can be really significant. We need to change the existing economy for the purpose of less CO2 emission, less pollution, less degradation of biosphere, etc., and also improving the social standards in certain areas.
So exactly, because maybe one sentence to that, because I think this transition you are talking about should be a just transition, and the financial institutions have a huge roles and responsibilities in this. I would say even civilization project. So this transition is very important, but it should be done with the just element. Maybe to this, what Krzysztof mentioned, POLSIF role is very important here in CEE region, especially in Poland. Is that we have a huge role in terms of developing standards, which is one of the biggest tasks that needs to be done. But also what Krzysztof said, identification of the real barriers for sustainable finance and remove those barriers. This is the critical for unlocking financial potential for just a transition, as I said. So that's why we are focusing not only on the education, on discussion with the policy maker, but first of all, focusing on the cooperation with the financial institution, identifying barriers, remove barriers, developing the standards, and trying to convince the financial institutions for applying those standards in their activities.
Yeah, and you both hold a high-level position in your respective organization, and so you know those concrete challenges that are met on a day-to-day basis. So could you maybe a bit elaborate on those also concrete challenges that you have, not necessarily in terms of the regulation, but in terms of, for example, data availability in the Polish and wider CEE market?
Sure. For example, at Millennium TFI, which is a mid-sized asset management company of few billions of euro of assets under management, and we offer mutual fund solutions to retail clients mostly. Among them, currently we offer 3 global funds that are aimed to promote ESG aspects in their strategies. So we just offer Article 8 solutions to our clients. But we do it mostly through the focus on assets, individual assets ESG ratings. So we use external data providers to do so. And we evaluate principal adverse impact data. We evaluate required and non-required data on PIs. And we have also used some negative criteria like UNGC violations of controversial welcome exposures or high fossil fuels exposure. But we are not the type of investors that really focus on exclusions, as I said earlier. I believe that exclusion is, the easiest way, but it can have also a very negative effect for the portfolio. So we rather focus on limits to establish a qualitative and quantitative analysis of the assets in terms of valuation and ESG parameters. And also we applied this into our risk management methodology. So we evaluate each asset of our funds portfolio, not only those 3, but all of them under the criteria of ESG quality and ESG risk, ESG performance, let's say, generally speaking. And then we establish limits for the worst performance and increase limits for the better performance assets. And I think this approach is a good, let's say, starting point for developing either full integration methodology, which I said is growing in importance globally, and also to reach the status of sustainable investment asset approach in accordance to Article 2.17 of SFDR. We need this approach because we cannot claim that we have a sustainable investment strategy without having a definition of sustainable investment in the portfolio. That's why we are currently working on that, how to define this. It's harder to do so in Poland because you have more, let's say, so-called poorer performing companies compared to the peers in Western countries. Some companies do not provide the data, I mean public companies that we mostly invest into. Of course, we have the CSRD pipeline, and currently out of 600 companies, public companies, more than 140 report any data on ESG, which is good, but what about the other 60-70%, which is still, let's say, we are expecting this data to come with the CSRD implementation in the following years, but we would like to stimulate at least the public companies to disseminate certain data earlier, and that's why we are working on the project of the ESG Data Hub together with the Warsaw Stock Exchange to gather this data for the sake of investors and in order to use this data for the good purpose, because even the let's say poorer, less attractive data on ESG performance is better than no data. No data means no transparency and higher risk. Clear data means that we can really set up certain limits and compare this data with the peer groups. And sometimes even if the company thinks that its data is poorer, it may occur that it is even better for them to provide this data instead of not providing at all. I mean, for example, the GHG emissions or other negative aspects of the business. So I'm really encouraging also other market participants to use the data in the risk management, in the asset evaluation methodologies, to embed this into normal investment process, which is, I think, not common yet in the financial industry, but becoming more common, especially in banks in the risk and lending area, and for certain companies in the investment area.
Yeah, you Pierre asked about the challenges. It's quite easy to exclude companies from the portfolio, but it's much more harder to transform them. And there's the task for the private equity, because ABRI is a private equity fund invested in Central Europe. We currently have 15 portfolio companies from different sectors with 15,000 employees on board. And at ABRI, we called ourselves ESG transformation specialists. So this transformation, this change is very important in our DNA, and it means that we create value of our portfolio companies based on ESG and sustainability. And thanks to this strategy, we can achieve, and we see on real cases, higher valuation of our companies on the exit stage. So ESG and sustainability pays. And we measure correlation between the ESG and companies' value using our proprietary methodology called ESG-enabled EBITDA. And to do so, we implemented a couple of the flagship programs into our strategy, such as Climate Manifesto, which aiming at carbon neutral portfolio by 2025, DEI code, corporate governance model, or anti-bribery program. But above all, we strive to change culture and of our portfolio companies, educate them, and incorporate sustainability into their business strategy. And if I would pinpoint the main challenge on the CEE market is related with the business models of the potential portfolio or current or potential portfolio companies, which could achieve the sustainability goals in the future, which support the just transition of the whole economy.
Thank you both. So we discussed a number of challenges that are linked to the Polish markets and to regulation, but to end on a maybe forward-looking note, could each of you name maybe one project or expected developments in relation with sustainable finance in Poland or the CEE region that you find particularly interesting and that you would like to see happen in the future?
There is no one project, but of course I can name the most important ones. We are, as POLSIF, we are working within the sustainable finance platform, also on the project to develop a Polish market of sustainable bonds. Because this, I don't know if all of you know, but Polish government was the first issuer of green bonds in Europe in 2016, and since then, not much happened. Unfortunately, we don't have a large sustainable bond or labeled bond market in Poland, corporate bond, which is not the case in Europe, where numbers of corporates issue such instruments. So our focus is to work on the development of these instruments where we would be more able to transfer the capital through bonds instead of just investing into equity of the company, yes, which is always harder to do because the company needs to be public and we have certain limitations. And here through bonds, it would be much more easy for us to invest and engage also other potential investors from the private equity side, for example. So this is one project. Another one is the project of the ESG data hub, common for banks and investors. So we would like to use this data hub for the sake of the risk creditworthiness of the company that is looking for a loan or for the investment, also for the bond's sake. And also the third one is the focus on education, both for the industry participants to share best practice and for the common public. So also to engage new Polish administration representatives of the Ministry of Finance or Ministry of the Development or Environment, so we can link more the business with the administration and for the purpose of greater investments into sustainable assets or sustainable projects. And this is something we would like to focus on in the nearest future. And one more thing, maybe at the end I would add, we also would like to have a more clear classification or labels for the sustainable investment products. We would like to review the existing products on the market and create a special, maybe a card, like a key investors document, for example, where certain data on the characteristic of sustainability would be included. And so the investors could compare the funds between each other, not only on the basis of the fact that whether the Article 8 or 9, but rather on the fact what they invest into, what is the portfolio structure, and what are the ESG characteristics of these portfolios. And this is, to me, a very interesting project from the perspective of a retail client.
Yeah, Krzysztof mentioned about a couple of the specific projects. So, but I would say that POLSIF, let's say, game is not about the only a particular project, but is about the strategic and systemic change of the economy towards sustainable economy. And at the end, I would say that my dream even is that the market will say that thanks to the Polish Actions project, the number and the value of the available sustainable finance and investment instruments have increased. Investments and instruments that facilitate just transition. So this is the strategic goal we have.
Thank you both, Krzysztof and Robert, for joining us today and for this very insightful conversation. Thank you both.
It was our pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. And I really hope our perspective will give foreign investors, I mean Western European investors, also a deeper, let's say, insight on evolution of Polish sustainable market.